Good morning, sports bettors. Matt Modi here with OddsJam, recording this early on the morning of Monday, January 2nd. Hopefully, everybody had a good New Year's. Just here to give you some NBA player props for today. So, we got a pretty decent slate of NBA games going on today, which means that we have a pretty decent slate of player props to lock in. All of the bets I find using OddsJam, using the positive expected value page. When you use OddsJam, you are gaining the edge over the sportsbook, which is incredibly important if you want to actually make some money betting on sports. The unfortunate reality is sportsbooks have the edge over you. They charge a big juice to odds. That's how sportsbooks make money, by charging this. I basically call it a tax that they charge up the odds themselves. So it's very difficult to make money unless you have some sort of edge over them, which is exactly where OddsJam comes into play. The edge that you find over the sportsbooks is incredibly valuable. So definitely recommend checking out OddsJam if you have not yet. You don't need a huge bankroll to get started. You don't need to dedicate a ton of time. I record, like a 7 to 10 minute video. I lock in 6 bets. If I wasn't recording it and talking as I was doing it, I would be able to get in a lot more. So you don't need a ton of time or bankroll. So I definitely recommend reaching out. But anyways, the first play that we're going to lock in here is Joel Embiid under 31.5 points. This is at plus 120 odds at bet365. So this one I locked in, as you can see right here. Joel Embiid under 31.5 points, plus 120 odds at bet365. So this is a perfect example of why having a tool like OddsJam is so important, because admittedly, this bet feels gross. Embiid has been phenomenal recently. He's been incredible. I myself am a Sixers fan, but so normally, if you're just scanning through without any research or anything, you would not want to take Joel Embiid to go under. But this is a mathematically profitable play, and if you continually take plays like this that have this sort of edge, you will be profitable in the long run. I'm not saying that this bet is guaranteed to hit. It's actually the likely scenario. It's about 49% chance that this bet hits. But we're getting it at plus 120 odds. And therein lies the value of using a tool like OddsJam. So number one, I mentioned the win percentage of 49%. That's pulled from these no vig odds here that you see, plus 103.81. We can just round up to plus 104. These odds are pulled from the sharpest sportsbooks in the world, the sportsbooks that consistently do the best job at pricing odds. So weighted average taken from these sportsbooks spit out this number here, and we kind of view it as the true line of what a market should truly be priced at. So the true line has this at plus 104. We're getting it 16 cents higher at plus 120, which is just insane. That gap between the no big line and what we're getting at bet365, just a huge gap. It's also positive EV on Caesars at plus 108. I know that not everybody might have access to bet365, so you can also get this at Caesars at plus 108. So let's chat about it. Number one, I mentioned the win percentage, and this is an important concept to understand. So all odds have a win percentage associated with them. So basically, whenever sportsbooks are pricing odds, all they're doing is saying, hey, our model, our algorithm, our whatever gives this bet an X% chance of hitting, and then they just convert that percent to odds. So the no big line of plus 104 equates to a win percentage of about 49.06%. So basically, if this game was played 1,000 gajillion times in a simulation, Embiid would go under just about 49% of the time. So we're getting this at plus 120 odds. So the win percentage of plus 120, if you go to calculators, odds converter calculator, you type in plus 120, this bet only needs to hit 45.45% of the time in order to break even. This probability is your break even percent. So any number above this, you will be profiting, right? So if you're placing 1,000 bets at plus 120 odds, you hit 46% of the time, you are making money, you are profiting. And we know, based on the OddsJam perfect line, that this bet is going to hit 49% of the time. So it's an incredibly profitable play. We're placing a bet that only needs to hit 45%, roughly 45% of the time in order to make money, but we know it's going to hit 49% of the time. That's the definition of positive expected value betting. So yes, this bet feels gross, but it's mathematically profitable, and that's the most important thing. And then what you want to do, so you want to compare the odds that you're placing to the rest of the sportsbook. So just because a play shows up here, it does mean that there's some sort of edge, but you still want to do a little bit more digging to make sure you're placing the best of the best. So plus 120 at Bet365, clear outlier to the rest of the sports books. The closest one, as I mentioned, was Caesars at plus 108. But then Pinnacle has this at plus 102. You could ignore these three. They're DFS sites that have the same implied odds for everything, so they don't feed into these no-vig odds here. But then BetRivers actually favors the under at minus 114, the over at minus 112. DraftKings, FanDuel, and PointsBet has it at 50-50. They think it's a 50-50 outcome. And remember, we're getting it at all the way at plus 120. So that is everything why this is such a good play. Joel Embiid under 31.5 points. So this is my first play. And as I mentioned, I already locked this one in. The next one, another player that I have already locked in on Caesars, Tyrese Haliburton over 9.5 assists. So this one doesn't feel as gross because Haliburton's been incredible this year. So that's nice at least. The no vig line, the OddsJam perfect line prices this just below minus 109 at minus 108.85. So we can round up. We are getting it at about 5 cents lower at minus 104 at Caesars. All in all, equates to a profit margin a little bit lower. Doesn't mean it's bad at 2.23%. So math checks out. Of course, you want to look at everything else. You want to look at the profitability, you want to compare the bet that you're placing to the rest of the sports books. Bet online, minus 130. BetRivers, minus 124. DraftKings, minus 125. The only one that's kind of close is Bet365 at minus 115. And then we have PointsBet and FanDuel at minus 125. No book the closest book has it 11 cents higher than the Caesars line at minus 104. So this is another bet that I have already locked in, as you can see right here. Tyrese Haliburton over 9.5 assists. For player props, I kind of have settled on my unit sizing of risking to win $75. Now this one I only risked 75 because I just typed in 75 and didn't really think about it, but it's about 3/4 of a unit for me. So for this player prop, for both of these player props, I recommend putting 3/4 of a unit. That's kind of how I've worked out my bankroll, specifically with player props. I just do a flat rate of 3/4 unit per bet. So this is the second bet, Tyrese Haliburton over 9.5 assists. The next one that I wanted to lock in here is in the Mavericks versus Rockets game. Christian Wood over 8.5 rebounds. So this bet is at minus 120 odds. The OddsJam perfect line prices this at about, again, rounding up, minus 123. We are getting it at minus 120. So again, a smaller gap between these two numbers, still a valuable gap, still a valuable play. In terms of the odds of the rest of the sports books, so we're getting it at minus 120. FanDuel has it at minus 130. And then look at the rest of the sports books. So again, we can ignore Monkey Knife Fight DFS company. But, excuse me, Fox Bet has it 18 cents higher at minus 138. And then we see DraftKings minus 145. Bet365 minus 145, Caesars minus 151. All a clear outlier to the minus 120 at PointsBet. And this is kind of a good example to talk about odds themselves. So when I'm placing positive expected value bets, I don't, I'll take something that's plus money up to plus 200 if it's good value, and I'll take something down to minus 200 if it's good value. So I get a lot of questions about why would you take this bet if it's plus money, that means it's not likely to hit. And I kind of explained that at the beginning. It's all about the odds that you are getting reflective to the rest of the market, right? You're not trying to win every single bet. You're trying to profit. And placing plus money bets can be profitable. And I also get questions, not as much with minus 120, but closer like minus 140, minus 150. Why would you place bets that have such, that are so juiced up at minus 150? And it's the same thing. It's about the odds that you're placing compared to the rest of the sports books. If we're getting something at minus 150 and every other sports book has it at minus 200, that's value. That is something that should be bet. So the odds themselves, I won't just completely say, I'm avoiding this because it's plus money, or I'm avoiding this because it's minus 160. You always want to compare the odds that you're placing to the rest of the sports books and make sure you're getting a value. So this is the third play, the Christian Wood over 8.5 rebounds. Next up was this Bojan Bogdanovic under 2.5 made threes. Just kidding, the odds changed. So the next one, and this is another one that I locked in, Trey Young over 9.5 assists plus 100 odds at DraftKings. So I locked in this one, as you can see right here, Trey Young over 9.5 assists, $75 to win, $75. So the OddsJam perfect line prices it just above minus 100. making it so you have the odds of the OddsJam perfect line gives us a win percentage of above 50%. Plus 100 odds dictates a 50% win percentage. So still a valuable bet there. And then again, you want to compare the bet you're placing to the rest of the sports books. So I kind of like, it's kind of nice when you're placing something at plus 100 because it's really easy to tell if the sports book favors it above your plus 100 odds with the vig removed. So plus 100, 50-50 win percentage. And as we can see, if you look at the sports books, every other book except for DraftKings, so ignoring DraftKings, has the over as the favored outcome. Pinnacle prices the over at minus 121, the under at minus 109. FoxBet has it at 50-50. Bet365 has it at 50-50. But then Caesars, FanDuel, PointsBet, they all favor it going over. They have the over as the more likely scenario, right? And you can tell it's pretty easy just by looking at both sides of the line. Over priced at minus 120, under priced at minus 110. They are favoring this going over, so they're making the over more expensive to buy. 4 of the sports books on the screen here have the over as more likely, and we're getting it at plus 100. So that's why this is such a good bet, and that is my 4th bet for you guys to lock in for these NBA player props. So if you're tailing these, comment, let me know. They're all really good. And like I said, comment if you are tailing. Other than that, please like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Helps me out a ton. But that's it. So appreciate everybody watching, and have a good one.